Hey, it's Dan. Welcome back. You're watching iAllegedly, and I've got a good one for you today. We're going to talk about how to get your money out of the bank and alternatives that you can put your money into. It's been a big question that people have asked me. And please take a second. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the channel. But let's get right into it. We've talked about the problems with banking and with banking freezes and with depositors getting funds held over the course of the last 6 months. It's really just escalated globally. And what people have asked me is, what do I do? How do I get money out of the bank, Dan? And where can I put it? Now, everybody has got a different amount of money that they deal with. You have to have a bank. You have to have a bank to pay your bills. My recommendation is to not have your bill account have more money in it than it really needs to have. Dawn, a subscriber, sold a house. She cleared $1.5 million from the house, and went to the bank and was not satisfied with that check being stuck into one bank. So she took it to 6 different banks to where she has $250,000 in each bank. She put it in interest-bearing accounts, which are not paying much at all. But one thing that she had to do was she had to open up a 7th bank because she took the interest and put it in another bank. And one of the bank managers gave her so much grief for this. This is crazy. The banks are safe. The banks are not safe right now. Let me explain this to you guys. When we were younger, banks had to keep a certain percentage of your deposits on file and on account at the bank to solidify volatility and liquidity inside the bank, to fight volatility and to have liquidity inside the bank. That has dropped lower and lower and lower. It went from at one point 30% down to 10%, down to 5%, down to 1%. Now, during the health crisis, it went down to 0%. They don't have to keep a dollar of your money. And if you look at banks like Bank of America and you go to the front of their website, it says that they have so many investments that are not FDIC insured. You can lose money. These are subject to your own risk and your own investments, and you've got to keep your eyes on all that stuff. You have to look at alternatives. Now, it's all relative. If you make just enough money to get by, you need to get enough money in a rainy day fund out of the bank. So if there was an emergency and the banks were shut down for an extended period of time. In the last week, we covered Germany. Germany has talked about, through the regulators, through the government, that they're going to have power outages. Not just the power is going to go out on this street, the power is going to go out on these grids. That's going to affect 100% of everything within that region. So the banks will be shut down. You won't have access to online banking. You won't have access to the ATMs. You won't have access to your debit or credit cards if that happens. Now, we've also talked about the fact that the banking system, the liquidity crisis, and that they have no money, and these banks are just basically, a Ponzi scheme, floating money around overnight to act like they have money. This is a mess, guys. It's an absolute mess. It's one day is going to lock up and freeze. You've heard people like J.P. Morgan, Morgan Stanley talk about this, and Goldman Sachs. I mean, it's an absolute mess. But what you can do is make sure that you have cash outside the bank, and just don't have $500. Have enough money that you could live for 10 days, 14 days outside the banking system. Now, what do you do if you want to get money out of the bank? You need to have multiple bank accounts. My recommendation is 5 to 6 bank accounts. Wow, that's insane. Okay, but they need to be completely unconnected and unrelated to each other. You need to have different banks of different types. Now, let's just talk about the big four. You've got B of A, Wells Fargo, Chase, and J.P. Morgan. I'm sorry. Let's talk about the big four banks. You've got Bank of America, Wells Fargo, J.P. Morgan Chase, and Citibank. I really recommend that you look at alternatives beyond them. And one thing you may want to look at is a credit union. Credit unions are great. Here in California, I just looked up, there's a credit union association for the state of California. They can tell you how many different credit unions there are throughout the state. There's over 300 throughout the state. And basically the credit unions support an organization, whether it's the Navy Credit Union, the Teachers Credit Union, whatever. You can get to a credit union, and they used to be very tight, and they used to be closed to where, like, the Teachers Credit Union was only good for teachers. And now a lot of these are open up to the regular community. The advantage to this is that when you walk in there, you can find out the financial viability of that bank. Once again, if Wells Fargo goes down, it would be nice to have an alternative. But if you believe that the entire banking system is going to go down, it's going to make no difference where you're at. You need to have cash out of the system. And again, precious metals are a great thing to look at. Credit unions are a great thing to look at. And the other thing is a community bank. A community bank is a nonprofit bank. And these are great to borrow money from. They're great to become a member from. And also, if you own a business, you should look at alternatives like this, because it's a great way to get funding if you need to get new equipment, if you need to get expansion or remodeling your business or anything like that. The community bank is a great way to go as well. There's over 30 community banks here in Orange County alone. They're across the country. One, I was helping people get grants a couple years ago. It really opened my eyes to the community banks because there are so many out there, and they really do help people with, as a nonprofit, they help people borrow money and get a foothold on growing their business. And if they have a good business advisor, they can help you, and you try to find out if anybody knows your industry as you talk to these people. The next thing is online prepaid banking, prepaid debit cards like NetSpend, like things like that, Chime, things like that you can put money into that's out of the banking system. Now, this is not to hide it. The IRS is going to have their hand in any of this stuff. You owe people taxes, they're going to find it. If it's stuck in your mattress, they're going to find it, regardless of where you're at. The idea with this is that you want to be away from a banking liquidity problem. And these NetSpend and these online prepaid debit cards are a great way to put money in. Some of these you can put $5,000 in and use it as a debit card at different places to buy things. But once again, if things seize up and the banking system is shut down, the debit cards at all these places are going to shut down as well. Now, the stories that they're going to waive all of our debts and all that stuff, that's insane, guys. It's not going to happen. There are people right now who are not paying their energy bills because they cannot afford it. People are having a very difficult time right now. You need to understand that these banks are having a very difficult time as well. They're not making the money that they used to make. And now that interest rates are going up, people are borrowing less. Wells Fargo Bank went from being the second or third largest lender in the entire mortgage industry down to where they have 13,000 loans in the entire company right now. It's an absolute mess. And this is not going to get better. So get yourself ready. Understand that there's going to be a day that there will be a banking freeze. And you need to have as much money out of the bank as you're comfortable with. And how would you live for an extended period of time? We've already seen tests in the South, Truist Bank and Jefferson, I think was the other one, that shut down for multiple periods of time, days, 8 days, 10 days, couldn't get to online banking, couldn't pay bills, couldn't use a debit cards. What do you do if that happens to you? Oh, well, they're just going to have to wait. There's your landlord and the late fees and things like that. It just doesn't work that way, guys. So you can look at alternatives like precious metals and buying things like that, which I highly recommend. But what I'm talking about is, what do you do in the case of an emergency? Multiple banks that you could get access to. Having yourself at totally unique places like the prepaid debit cards, a PayPal account, Chime accounts, and things like that would be a great way to go. So interview these people. You're the customer, guys. You can do whatever you want. You can ask for anything you want. If you have $1,000, you walk in there, you should be treated the same as a guy with $100,000 walking in the bank, as far as I'm concerned. Ask the questions that you want to ask and get the answers that you want to get from them. Also, look at your rainy day fund. If you have enough to pay your bills for a month, you're ahead of the game over. It's like 92% of the people in the country. If you can get yourself 4 months and 6 months of your wages, and that in a rainy day fund, even better. Now, a lot of people have their rainy day fund in a separate account at the same bank, but if that bank was seized, what are you going to do, guys? Remember that. Just prepare yourself during this time. If you're on a fixed income, if you're on Social Security, have a few bucks out of the bank, away from the bank. Have cash, large and small bills, socked away that only you know about, nobody else knows about. Remember, stack in silence. Don't tell people, oh, I saved $8,000. You know where it's at? It's in my glove box. Don't do that, okay? Keep it quiet and have it for a rainy day. And look at the alternatives. Look at other ways to bank, and this will help you get through this difficult time right now, okay? Hope this was helpful. I love the precious metals. I love the metal stocks. You can look at cryptos. You can look at things like that. But cryptos are proving themselves to be an absolute mess. It's what we just saw with FTX. That's just the tip of the iceberg for all this stuff. And there's going to be massive fallout. But there's also going to be banks that people deal with that dealt with FTX that are going to go out of business in the next 30 to 45 days as well. So I hope this was helpful. Reach out with any of your questions. Onward and upward. Don't forget to hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys very soon.